Two people, same room, same question thrown at them across a table. The first leans forward. Their voice rises slightly. They start from the beginning. They explain the reason, then the reason behind the reason, then the reason behind that. Their hands are moving. Their eyes are searching the other person's face for something, approval, understanding, a sign that the explanation's landing. It never lands. The more they explain, the more the room watches them shrink. Now the second person. Same question, same table. They sit back slightly. One breath. 2 words, maybe 3. Then silence. Not uncomfortable silence. Silence with weight in it. The kind that fills the room and makes everyone else lean forward instead. They did not explain. And somehow, they are the most credible person in the room. Why do you explain yourself? Not the surface answer. Not because the situation needed context. The real answer. The one that lives underneath the habit. The one that was installed so long ago, you have been running it ever since without knowing it was ever a choice. You explain yourself because somewhere, a long time ago, you were taught that your right to exist in a room requires a reason. That your decisions need defending. That without the explanation, people will think less of you. They already formed their opinion before you opened your mouth, and the explanation did not change it. It just showed them the door was open. Marcus Aurelius wrote one line that contains everything. Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. He did not say, explain yourself. He did not say, justify your choices to the room. He said, be it, and let the being speak louder than any explanation ever could. Every explanation you gave to a person who had already decided, that was not communication, that was performance, and the performance has been costing you every single time. One rule ends it today.
The rule. Your actions speak. Your explanations beg. Most people believe explaining themselves builds trust. That context creates understanding. That the more clearly they lay out their reasoning, the more respected they become. The opposite is true. And every room you have ever walked into already knew this, except you. Picture a courtroom. A defendant stands. The judge has not asked a question. The jury has not deliberated. But the defendant starts talking, explaining, laying out their case before anyone has accused them of anything. Going back further, more context, more reasons, more detail. Watch what happens to the room. The judge's face closes. The jury stops listening. Not because the explanation is wrong, because the act of explaining, before being asked, without prompting, with that specific urgency in the voice, has told the room everything it needed to know. Something here feels uncertain. Someone here is not sure they deserve to stand where they are standing. You have been that defendant. In meetings, in conversations, in rooms full of people who never asked for the explanation you gave them. The moment you explain yourself, you hand the other person the judge's seat. You invite them to evaluate, to weigh your reasons against their standard, to decide whether your explanation is good enough to earn their approval. And once that invitation is given, it cannot be taken back. They're sitting in that seat, and you're standing in front of it, waiting for a verdict on something that was never on trial.
The Stoics understood something that takes most people decades to discover. Silence is not the absence of an answer. Silence is the answer. When a person of genuine authority is questioned, they do not rush to fill the space. They let the question sit. They consider it at their own pace. And when they speak, the room has already leaned in. Because a person who doesn't scramble to explain is a person who is not afraid of what you think. And a person who is not afraid of what you think is a person the room cannot move. Epictetus said it plainly. If someone tells you you know nothing and you feel disturbed, you have already agreed with them. Your explanation was the disturbance made visible. The scramble to justify was the agreement. The room saw it before you did. Picture a woman named Sarah. 12 years in the same company. Smart, sharp, someone who had earned every inch of where she stood. And for 12 years, every decision she made came with an explanation attached to it. Every choice came with its reasons preloaded. Every action arrived already defended, already justified, already wrapped in context so nobody could misread it. She thought it was thoroughness. She thought it was communication.
A mentor watched her present in a boardroom one afternoon. Afterwards, in the corridor, the mentor asked one question. Why do you apologize before anyone attacks? Sarah did not understand. She had not apologized. The mentor said, your explanations are apologies. They say, I am not sure I deserve to make this decision without your permission. And the room hears that every time. Sarah stood in the corridor for a long time after the mentor left. 12 years, every explanation she thought was building her credibility had been quietly spending it. Here is what Sarah expected when she stopped explaining. She expected pushback. She expected questions. She expected the room to challenge her because she was no longer preempting every challenge. What she got instead was silence, the respectful kind, the kind that forms around a person who speaks only when something is worth saying. The room filled the space she left, not with doubt, but with the assumption she had always been trying to create through words. Competence, authority, the quiet certainty of someone who doesn't need the room to agree in order to proceed. Nobody gave it to her. She stopped taking it away from herself. Every room you walked into preloaded with explanations, you arrived already smaller than you needed to be. The rule doesn't ask you to become cold or silent. It asks one thing: stop apologizing for decisions that were never on trial. But to stop, you first have to see exactly what the explaining has been doing to you. And what it has been doing is far more mechanical than you think. You are not explaining because you are thorough. You are explaining because somewhere inside you, you are still waiting for the room's permission to be sure of yourself. That permission is never coming, because the room takes its cue from you. If you are sure, the room assumes you have a reason to be. If you explain, the room assumes the reason was not obvious. Either way, the room didn't decide. You did, before you said a single word. Picture the next moment you feel the urge to explain. Something you decided, something you did, something you chose. And you feel the familiar pull, the reach for context, for justification, for the sentence that starts with, "The reason I did this was." Stop, right there, in that gap, before the sentence starts. Ask one question: is this explanation for them, or is this permission I am still seeking for myself? Almost every time, the answer is the second one. And the moment you see that, the explanation dissolves.
not because the decision needs no defense, because a decision made by someone who knows why they made it needs no audience. Speak the outcome. Leave the process inside. Let the room work to understand you for once, instead of you working to be understood. The weight of the room shifts. You'll feel it the first time you do this. The room leans forward instead of back. The questions that come are different. They're curious, not evaluating. The silence before you speak is held by others, not filled by you. That's what authority feels like. Not loud, not defended, just present and completely unmoved by whether the room approves.
Picture those two people again. Same table, same question. The first person is still explaining, still searching that face for the sign that the explanation was enough. Still running the courtroom in their own head, cross-examining their own decisions before anyone else had the chance. The second person already stood up. The meeting ended. There in the corridor, unhurried, unbothered, carrying exactly what they walked in with, nothing more, nothing less. Because they never handed the room anything it did not earn. You are not a person who needs the room's permission to be certain. You are a person who was taught to ask for it, so early, so repeatedly, that asking became invisible. A habit so deep it felt like personality. It is not personality. It is a pattern. And patterns can be broken in one moment. The next room. The next question. The next moment the pull arrives, reach for the question instead. Is this for them, or is this permission I'm still seeking for myself? Answer honestly, then do what the honest answer asks. Marcus Aurelius never explained his private journal. He never published it. He never showed it to anyone. He wrote it alone, for himself. Every morning for 19 years. The man responsible for millions of lives wrote his philosophy in private and let his actions be the only version the world ever saw. 2,000 years later, his silence is the most credible thing he left behind. Not the explanations, the actions. Picture the room waiting. Picture your hands still. Picture your voice, when it comes, carrying only what needs to be said. Not an apology in advance. Not a courtroom opening statement for a trial that was never called. Just the decision. Clear. Complete. Owned. That's the rule. Your actions speak. Your explanations beg. Choose which one the room hears.